Hi guys, this is the Blueshark R1, an electric scooter with a range of roughly about 110 kilometers. It's as cheap as a little under 8,000 ringgit and it can go up to 15,000 ringgit in price. So it's not exactly affordable and it is actually quite small. With a top speed of about 80 kilometers per hour, provided you're using both its batteries, it really is not very quick either. With an acceleration speed of about 5 seconds to get from 0 to 50 kilometers per hour, it can actually do a decent job at keeping up with traffic as long as you stay away or keep away from faster traffic. It has me divided in opinion because I want to try to justify it, but at the same time I'm finding it hard to do so. But I also do acknowledge that this is the future of mobility, because you see, when it comes to electric cars, the problem with electric cars is going out of state. You know, if you have a range of roughly about 500 kilometers, which is great, but as soon as you get to Penang, you might find yourself, in line with other EV users to charge your electric car, which is not just a metaphorical situation. These things have been happening. So rather than having to wait just maybe 45 minutes to charge your EV, you might actually end up spending 3 hours. And hence why I think that in terms of infrastructure, we are not quite there yet. But I do believe that EVs are the way to go in an urban environment. If you want to get from your house to office, if you have a range of about 500 kilometers, as I said earlier, you probably will only need to charge maybe once, perhaps twice a week. And that's where EVs function at their best in traffic congested areas, in urban environments and such. But if you're a biker and you like 2 wheels, this could be your solution. Let me tell you why. So the R1 comes in 2 variants. The R1 Lite comes in at 7,190 ringgit, whereas the full spec R1 will set you back 9,390. But the thing is, you do not get batteries with that prices. Why not? Well, that's because the Blueshark actually uses the battery swapping business model. So this means that you can go to certain locations around PJ, Klang Valley and such. They are expanding, by the way. So you can go to certain locations, mostly at petrol stations. Just take a battery out. Let me show you how. You take a battery out, well, like this. This is the battery. It's quite a big thing. You take this out, you go to a battery swapping terminal, you put this in, it'll charge, and you take out a fully charged unit. This is actually quite heavy. It's about maybe 8 kilograms or something. So you take that out and you are on your way. So if you have 2 of these in place, you get a top speed of 80 kilometers per hour. But if you only have 1, well, you get a top speed of 40 kilometers per hour, which in an urban environment on highways makes you an obstacle. When everybody else is traveling at 80 to 120 kilometers per hour, you become an obstacle. So it's not quite safe. But if you are just, running to the shops, going to office, as long as you keep off the highways, it should be fine. But besides that, if you do want to buy your own battery, it's going to cost you 3,000 ringgit. But hey, Blueshark actually has a solution for you, because when you buy this bike, you can actually subscribe to the battery swapping plan. So the battery swapping plan works like this. Let's say you've bought the R1, either the R1 Lite or the top spec model, and you subscribe. You have 4 different plans that you can subscribe to. The Blue Swap Lite, actually you pay 59 ringgit per month and you get 36 battery swaps. If you go for the Blue Swap Standard, it's 99 ringgit per month and you have 70 battery swaps. But if you go for the Pro, which is 139 ringgit per month, you get 120 battery swaps. But if you're the type that does not know when you're going to use the bike, you prefer an ad hoc approach to life, you get the Blueswap Flex, where you pay per swap. You pay RM1.95 per battery swap. So if you have a range of 110 kilometers with both batteries in place, you get a theoretical range of perhaps 50 kilometers per hour. 50 kilometers per battery. So it's actually not that bad if you think about it. So rather than having to pay 3,000 ringgit per battery and having to swap 6,000 ringgit for 2 batteries, so I mean having to fork out 6,000 ringgit for 2 batteries, you might as well just go for the subscription plan. But what if you do not want to buy the bike, you just want to subscribe to it, or rather just lease it? That you can do that with the Blueshark as well. And in my opinion, EVs should be leased. Whether it's cars or motorcycles, EVs are better off being leased, simply because we are at a point in time where we do not know what the future is going to hold for older batteries. Imagine you spend R1 million. No need to go so far. You spend 250,000 ringgit on a mini EV, the Mini Cooper EV electric, right? And you own it for about 10 years, only to be told that your battery has depleted, cannot hold charge anymore, and you have to scrap it. So that's the thing. We do not know what's going to happen with EVs in the future as of now, because hence why I'm a big believer in leasing EVs. So this subscription plan that Blueshark has for the R1 makes a lot of sense. I mean, hear this out. So let's say you subscribe for the R1 under your company. It's called the corporate rental rate. You can rent the R1 Lite, which is not this model, this is the top spec model. You can rent it for 487 ringgit per month, or 547 ringgit for this bike, the R1. Together with that, you get 2 batteries, 2 Bluetooth keys, a SIM card, and an optional home charging kit, which I'll show you shortly, as long as you pay 250 ringgit as a deposit. For me, that makes sense. But what's even better is the consumer rental rate, which is just 414 ringgit for the R1 top spec and 358 ringgit for the R1 Lite. You get the same accessories as the corporate rental. You get 2 batteries, you get 2 Bluetooth keys, a SIM card, optional home charging kit, with the 250 ringgit refundable deposit. So in my books, leasing it, renting it, the subscription plan actually makes more sense than buying the Blueshark R1. So what about charging this thing? Well, you got 2 options to charge it. One is you can plug it directly into the bike under the seat, or you can use this charging base where you place the battery on top of it, you plug this into here, and then you just charge it at home. Charging it takes 3 hours 35 minutes for a single battery using a conventional 3-pin plug, and 7 hours if you choose to charge both the batteries. The thing is, the good thing about this is, which I like, is first things first, you get a charging base, which makes it easy if you live in a condo, because you can just take this charging base up to your unit, your condo, leave it there, just place a battery on top and just charge it using this thing. Of course, once 3.5 hours later, you just have to take out the fully charged battery, swap it with your second battery, and start the entire process again, hence why 7 hours. But if you live in a landed property, you do not need to go through the entire hassle, and neither do you have to buy the charging base. Instead, you can just plug this into this port over here and do your charging through that. So, which also will take 7 hours to charge both batteries, but hey, the point of the matter over here is convenience. The biggest problem with EVs is charging infrastructure, especially if you live in a high-rise building. Not a lot of condominiums and apartments have charging ports. Doesn't matter if you have 2 wheels or 4 wheels, although more and more are having this facility, which is great. But for this bike, for the Blueshark R1, this offers you convenience, this charging base as well as this 3-pin plug, which makes it super easy, and 3.5 hours to fully charge it up is actually quite decent, not to mention convenient. Now we are done about the business side of things. Let's talk about the bike itself. How is the Blueshark R1 as a motorcycle? Well, if you're my size, you might tend to look like a circus bear on a very small motorcycle, which is what it is. It's actually quite a small motorcycle. It reminds me a little bit of the Vespa LX, and so yeah, size is not exactly its thing. So if you're on the bigger side of the spectrum, this may not suit you, but that does not make it a bad bike. You get 12-inch wheels up front, you get twin brake discs. You do not, however, get ABS. So yes, there have been a couple of times where I've locked up the rear wheel, which was actually quite scary. But besides all of that, convenience is definitely the name of the game over here. However, the bike does come with its own proprietary software called R1 operating system. So this gives you Bluetooth functionality, so you can connect your phone to it and listen to your music on the go, which is quite fun as long as you keep it below 60 kilometers per hour, because anything more than that, you're not going to hear your music. Besides that, the R1 operating system also gives you the GPS functionality. I haven't had the time to try it out because, you know, everywhere I go it's just at the back of my mind. But the good thing about having that feature is you do not need to buy a phone mount. Now, it's supposed to be really convenient. You do get this beautiful 10.4-inch colored display over here, which gives you all the information about the motorcycle. It gives you 3 different riding modes: Eco, Turbo and Sport. Eco is just way too slow. It just has a top speed of 40 kilometers per hour. Sport is where things get a bit more interesting, but I find that acceleration is a little bit on the slower side of things, especially in traffic. It tends to get a little bit dangerous. In turbo mode, now that is a great balance. That is, power is instantaneous, top speed is at 80 kilometers per hour. I feel at turbo mode, the R1 is at its finest. However, turbo gives you instant power, which tends to catch you off guard if you're not expecting the sudden surge of power, which is a great thing, but it requires some getting used to. So if you have this bike or you are thinking about buying this bike, don't immediately get on the throttle. It will catch you off guard, there's no doubt about it. What I really like about the Blueshark R1 is this thing. So you get your own digital video recorder over here. So this is actually amazing because it records as you go. So it's basically your very own dash cam built into the R1. And not only that, but you have a recorder. Sorry, this doesn't record, but you have a camera over here as well. And you get reverse sensors. That's because the R1 actually has a reverse gear as well. So let's say if you are parked on an incline and you need to get yourself out, and pushing this thing can be a bit tedious. So just put it into reverse and you're set. So that's a great thing about this Blueshark R1. However, you do not get all these features in the R1 Lite. The price between both bikes is not much, so I would suggest go for the full-fat R1. On the topic of riding the R1, which is actually quite curiously named, because if you are born in the 90s or the 80s, the R1 is usually associated with one of the greatest superbikes ever made, the Yamaha R1. So calling this, the Blueshark, an EV designed for efficiency, and R1 actually messes with your mind if you are, born in these years. Riding the R1 can be, for lack of a better word, unique. Because how else would you describe riding a bike with 7 horsepower? But horsepower is not the point over here, because R1 has over 200 Newton meters of torque. Remember that I was telling you, when you ride it in turbo mode, that is going to catch you off guard, because 200 Newton meters of torque is actually quite a lot of power being sent to the rear wheels, so the rear wheel, but which kind of adds to the fun side of the Blueshark R1. Doesn't make it any better, because one of my biggest gripes with the R1 is basically its size, and the other thing that I can't quite stand is the lack of convenience. Let me show you. If you're going to operate in an urban environment, convenience is obviously the name of the game. And the good thing about having a bike of this size is that you can park it almost anywhere you find an empty spot. The thing about maxi scooters, one of those big large Kawasaki's and Yamahas and Hondas and such, is that they can be quite difficult to park. And the good thing about bikes of this size, like Vespas and now the Blueshark R1, is that you can park it almost anywhere, because they're actually not that long, they're not that big, so convenience is definitely the name of the game when it comes to size. But when it comes to storage, not so much. Now this is my helmet, a Gregshaw helmet. It's just a regular open face helmet with a visor and such. Quite like it because it covers my entire head, it absorbs all the sweat, it offers me a full face visor, it does all of that. It works really great, and in an urban environment it's actually quite cool. It has a lot of ventilation and such. But the point is not the helmet, the point is the lack of storage, because there's no way in hell this is gonna fit. Yeah, definitely not gonna fit. Even if it didn't have the visor, it's not gonna close. So unless you have a turtle shell helmet or one very small helmet without a visor, yeah, you're gonna have to carry your helmet around, which I personally do not like to do. And or the other thing is, you can just fix a GV box, but I'm not quite sure if they make the brackets for the R1 as yet. You might custom make it, that's one way to do it. But yeah, might just ruin the aesthetics unless Blueshark goes out and creates one of those Vespa boxes that, you know, has the same color, the same design as the overall bike. Now that would be quite good, but for now it just doesn't have enough storage for my liking. I have a scooter at home. I ride it to the market, I ride it to do groceries, to go to events in town, and just to have that little bit of convenience. And one of the most important things for me is under-seat storage, which the R1 simply does not have. But what I really like are the cool little features that the Blueshark R1 has, so much so that I've actually considered perhaps just subscribing to the subscription plan, you know, 300-400 ringgit a month, just charge it to the company and such. So simply because it has that convenience, you know. I live in a place where there's no petrol station nearby. Every petrol station is roughly about maybe 8 to 10 kilometers away. So I've got back home only to realize that my bike has run out of petrol and I do not have enough range to go and refuel. So yeah, I have to take out my tong, go to a petrol station, get petrol and come back home. Yes, I've been caught out in such situations, which the Blueshark R1 will never be caught out with. So I like that convenience. I also like the fact that, let me just turn this on for you. I also like the fact that it comes with really cool LED lights over here. That is really nice. Makes it look very futuristic. And then that same theme comes over here as well. If you come to the back here, you see this is supposed to be a shark fin. You know, all these design elements, together with the cameras and such. Check out the placement of the turn signals over here. So it has this very cool tiny little details that give it an edge over other bikes. Oh, it also has a USB slot over here, so you can charge your equipment as you go, except for the fact that while you're charging your stuff, there's no place for you to actually store your phone or any other equipment that you're going to be charging. So it's a bit of an oxymoron, if you see what I mean. It's great, it is efficient, it is functional, It has its drawbacks, there's no doubt. I wish it was a little bit quicker in terms of top speed so I can actually take it on the highway. But other than that, I think if you're looking for a bike to take you to the market, get some groceries, perhaps go to the masjid, attend meetings and such, as long as you stick to the city roads, you should be fine. On the highways, yeah, you're going to be, as I said, an obstacle. But that's not to mean that the R1 is a bad bike. It offers a level of convenience that perhaps our generation will have to come to accept as we go about, because EVs are definitely the future. And as far as the R1 goes, the future is now. And I appreciate that it comes with a subscription plan. That means you only sign up for it for a couple of years, and then at the end of the subscription plan, you just give it back and don't have to deal with depleting batteries, which is a real issue for EVs at the moment. Thank you for watching. I'm Keshi Dylan.